Hello ladies and gentlemen, Reginald Scott here, and I wanted to talk about the subject of critical mass. Of course, I'm talking about critical mass, the bike ride, and not critical mass, the scientific phenomenon, although they are related in a small way. Basically, there's been a spate of videos on the internet about critical mass, namely videos that depict elements of violence and negativity within the mass ride. And this has got me concerned. Now, I was under some delusions as to what critical mass is actually about. After further reading, I realized that what I thought critical mass was, which is a cyclist protest for cycling, is actually a mixture of things, with the cycling not really being the most important element. Yes, they're on bicycles, but what critical mass appears to be is a protest, a political protest. Now, I don't know the ideology. I don't know what party it's supposed to represent. I'm guessing something socialist or left wing. But to me, it appears that there is a large element of critical mass, a large group of people within critical mass that aren't actually cyclists. When I turn up to mass rides, I'm one of the few people wearing a helmet. I'm one of the few people with lights on my bike. I'm one of the few people with a well-maintained bicycle to begin with. It appears to me that a lot of mass riders pull their bikes out their sheds on the last Friday of every month, specifically because they want to go on critical mass to protest something or other. And they are not avid cyclists. They're not people who cycle to work. They're not people who cycle for pleasure. The bike is only being used as an excuse to cause gridlock in cities all over the world. Now, don't get me wrong. I think critical mass is a really great idea, and I think it could achieve wonderful things for cycling and cycling safety if it was used properly. But as I say, there are people within it who are trying to push a particular political agenda. Whenever I go to critical mass, people are always shoving flyers in my face for come and campaign against this company, or come and support this trade union, or down with the Conservative government, or whatever. Go read Karl Marx, something along those lines. Stop the war campaign, all this sort of stuff. I'm not against that kind of thing. It's just that I turn up because I believe in cycling safety, and I'm a cyclist, and I want the roads to be a safe place for cyclists. And I was kind of deluded and naive as to what critical mass was actually about. I thought it was about cycling, because obviously there's a load of bicycles everywhere. But no, it's not about cycling. It appears to be more politicized than that. So that's my first issue with critical mass. What is it all about? What are we actually there to achieve? Do we all have our own agendas? Is it just a social event? Am I supporting something without actually knowing, giving tacit consent to something without even knowing what it is? So that's the first issue I have. And the second issue I have is, like, as I say, there's been a lot of videos about critical mass where people have been violent, people have been hurt, people have been attacked by drivers, but also where cyclists have intimidated pedestrians, have intimidated motorcycle riders, have surrounded cars and banged on cars and damaged cars. And it's like total mob mentality. And there appears to be this psychology of some of the riders where they have this complete hatred for drivers. There's this visceral element where people are just in complete loathing for all the cars around them. Now, I don't have that because I am a driver. I drive a car for work and for various different things, not for pleasure, but I have to suffer the pain of driving in the UK up and down some of our main arterial routes, which seem to be forever undergoing random roadworks that never materialise into anything, and full of time over distance speed cameras which have been there as long as I can remember, and, you know, just congested cities with absolutely awful transport systems. So whenever I get the opportunity, whenever I can cycle to work or whenever I can cycle for pleasure, I do. Because it's a wonderful thing. If you don't understand the benefits of cycling, you don't understand what good it can do a society, what good it can do a nation and a population and a government as a whole. Just, for example, look at Holland. How fit the general population is, what impact that has on the health system, what impact that has on people's daily lives and quality of life. You play a very simple game. Go out into any street in Nottingham or any street in the UK, play Spot the Fat Person, and then fly over to Holland and do the same, and I'm sure your score will be much higher here than it is in Holland. So cycling is of huge benefit, and I want to support that and I want to see that grow. My question is critical mass actually doing anything to help that? Or are we simply generating hatred of cyclists through the use of these critical mass rides? Now again, I know I'm blurring the lines. I know I'm suggesting that critical mass is about cycling and cycling safety, whereas I've made it clear I think that it might not be. But there is certainly that element there. You can't have a group of people cycling through a major city, slowing down the traffic and causing congestion, and not expect drivers to focus on the bikes. Okay, you could have 10-foot high billboards trailing behind you saying vote Labour or something along those lines, but people would still focus on the bicycles. They would still say, well, it's a bicycle protest, it's got to do with cyclists. And a lot of these people aren't cyclists. You can tell that from their attitude, from the way they ride, from their lack of knowledge of road rules, for their lack of courtesy, and for the way they just seem to want to cause trouble. And I think this is doing tremendous damage to people like myself, because come Monday morning, I'm back on the bike and I'm on the road, and all those drivers who were stuck on that Friday night trying to get home to their families or whatever, or their place of business, or get the deliveries in, they were stuck in traffic because of cyclists. And we're always, as cyclists, saying, look, we're a great thing for the roads, the one less car and all that business. More cyclists means less congestion. And here is a group of cyclists specifically, intentionally slowing down the flow of traffic. And then some are taking great pleasure in affecting other cars on other routes, which has nothing to do with the critical mass ride. Now, if the critical mass ride is going down the main road, these elements branch off and stop the flow in the opposite direction by riding on the wrong side of the road, or hold up traffic for longer than is necessary, or just generally cause disturbances and antagonize people. And as I say, this is doing tremendous damage because the driver is going to get angry. The driver is going to start hating on me, a cyclist, and you as a cyclist, not on these idiots on bicycles who have their own political agenda or just anarchistic in their outlook and want to go around and mess everybody's life up for some teenage angst or whatever they think, because a lot of these people are young, a lot of these people are idealistic, and they haven't developed their sense of political identity yet, and they just want to go around and cause problems. So what do we do about this? Because I can understand why this would piss people off. I can understand from a driver's perspective why this would make me absolutely miserable to be stuck in a queue of traffic watching cyclist after cyclist going by, and why they could jump to the conclusion that cyclists as a whole are a bad thing. It only takes one person to cause a disruption and everybody gets tarred with the same brush. We know for a fact that the videos on the internet where people are being beaten up and hurt get far more views than videos of puppy dogs and pansies. Nice people being nice to each other doesn't go down well. And congratulations and well done to people like Evo Lucas who post nice videos of critical mass. I understand it is a social thing, and there are you know, the majority of people probably pass through critical mass without incident. But even if there's one person that messes it up, that's bad enough to cause problems for everybody else. It's the same thing that happens when I'm having an argument with a driver, and I'm sure it's happened to you. You're discussing with a driver something bad they've done, and they turn around and go, "Oh, you jumped through red lights." And they point and they accuse you of jumping through red lights because you're a cyclist. Now, I don't jump through red lights. I obey red lights, like most of the cyclists I know. But because a small element do not, we all get tarred with the same brush. And it's going to be very difficult to shift that attitude when you've got those idiots out there who do choose to jump red lights. That's bad for everybody. And it's the same thing can be applied to critical mass. So what are your opinions? Is critical mass a good thing? Should we just scrap it all together? Is there a way to control it? I know control isn't really what mass is all about, but how can we prevent these dangerous elements within critical mass from causing us harm and trouble? How can we improve our image among drivers who don't know what it's like to be a cyclist? How can we educate cyclists who don't know how it is to be a driver? I want to know your opinions on this. If it gets to a stage where the police are sick of it and the government are sick of it, because they will get to that stage, enough drivers will start complaining, and let's face it, they've always had the power and they will always have the power for the foreseeable future. They've got a lot of power, a lot of clout. They will get the mass ride either completely riddled with police, just like football matches are now because of violence with football hooligans, who are spoiling it for everybody else. Not that I care in the slightest about football, but that's what's happened. The small groups who aren't really football supporters but like to have a good fight have ruined it for everybody else. And now there needs to be police horses and riot police and all that crap at every football match, just in case. And the critical mass will end up like that. We'll be escorted by police convoys everywhere. There'll be helicopters in the air and riot police on every corner. And that's going to cost the country millions of pounds and be a complete waste of time and effort, So that's one thing. And the second thing is it might get banned altogether. Let's face it, if something happens, say, what happens if somebody gets killed? What happens if a motorist gets killed by a mob of angry cyclists, or a motorist kills a cyclist, and it's at a critical mass event because of this stupidity? Well, it could get banned. You could see the traditional British government approach, draconian police state attitude of, no, sorry, unless you apply for a permit, you won't be able to protest, blah, blah, blah. And anyone who attempts to go on a critical mass ride will be dragged off their bike and handcuffed and thrown in a prison. So that is really not what we want to happen. So thank you for watching my videos. Nice shout out to all the fellow camera cyclists out there. Hope you're all well. Stay tuned for more videos, and as always, stay safe. Reginald Scott signing out. Bye bye.